Thanks. Mile? Microphone on? Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to be subjecting you to another presentation, but hopefully this will be as interesting as all the other ones we've seen today. So I'm Jodi Mullen. I'm the head of user acquisition for Ginsberg, and I'm going to talk you through what we've been doing over the last couple of years. I know there's different levels of knowledge about Ginsberg in the room, so really what I'm going to do is take a general overview, start by talking about what the project is, what we've created, take a look at what we've actually built in a little bit of detail, and then talking about how we work, how we're using that to innovate, and then how we're connecting with other organizations, including some of the ones that you've seen today. I seem to have lost the slide there. So probably the question we're asked most frequently is, where does the name Ginsberg come from? And it's from the poet Allen Ginsberg's poem Howl, which contains the line, "I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness." And that's something that Jeff Huggins, who's the project sponsor, is extremely passionate about. So to head off that question just now, there you go. So Ginsberg is a web and mobile service for the general Scottish population to improve their health and mental well-being. And we're a partnership between the Scottish Government, NHS 24 and New Media Scotland. The core team is based in Victoria Quay in Edinburgh, but we have an advisory panel from throughout the NHS who help us consult on clinical matters, etc. So why have we taken this web and mobile-based approach? If you like, there's sort of been a perfect storm of trends over the last few years. On the one hand, you have smartphone ownership, which has really just skyrocketed in the last few years. At the moment, 62% of the Scottish adult population have access to a smartphone, to say nothing of teenagers who will soon be becoming adults. Obviously, people's lifestyles are becoming increasingly more busy. With this technology comes more distractions, more pressure, more of a feeling that they have to be always on. So this is slowly wearing people down. And then the third trend we have is the growth of apps and wearable technologies, again associated with the growth of smartphones. So last Christmas, £100 million was spent in the UK on wearable technology like this, the fitness bands, Fitbits, Jawbone, that kind of thing. So this is stuff that people are making use of to keep track of their own health already, and we really feel that we should be making use of that. Shona spoke a little about the policy context earlier on, and Ginsberg actually comes out of Commitment 6 rather than Commitment 16 of the mental health strategy, but actually there's quite a lot of crossover between the two. So Commitment 6 states that during the period of the mental health strategy, we'll develop a Scotland-wide approach to improving mental health through new technology in collaboration with the NHS. And really the idea behind this is that the Scottish population have a range of potential solutions and interventions available to them when distress occurs. Not every intervention is going to be correct for every person, but there should be that broad spectrum that there is something for everybody. So who are we actually trying to reach with the Ginsberg project? To begin with, Ginsberg is a preclinical intervention. It's aimed at prevention rather than cure, tapping into what Karen was speaking about earlier. And it's aimed at people who are experiencing low mood, mild to medium stress, low-level anxiety, low-level depression. Typically people who, they don't feel very good, they're aware that there's something is wrong, but they won't go and see their GP about it until things get so severe that they're falling apart, and we want to get to them before that happens. There's a few core underlying design principles. I'm not going to read through them all, you'll be very pleased to hear, but there's a couple of them that I think are really relevant. So one thing we're really focused on is actually building something that helps people identify the triggers for why they feel the way they do. So rather than just having someone go through a series of steps to feel a bit better about themselves, then having the cycle recurring, we want them to be able to get to the root cause of what's wrong and work on that. We want to present a digital format of some of the principles of mindfulness-based stress reduction, giving people a place where they can become more self-aware, or they can externalize what's going on in their life and really get a little bit of distance about it and think about it. It's absolutely critical that we don't judge people or try and label people. Glenn spoke very elegantly about stigma around mental health, and what we don't want to do is use software to say to somebody, you have a mental problem, you have a drinking problem. It's not appropriate to do that. There's so many dangers attached to it that it's not a road we're going to go down. But one of the most important things is that whatever we build has to integrate completely seamlessly into the lives of the people who use it. So you need to be able to use this whether that's in the 1 minute you've got spare before you pick your child up from the school gates, or on your coffee break at work. You need to be able to access this when you need it, and it's something that also needs to maybe go away when you don't need it. So it's there for you when you want to come back to it. So in terms of how it works, we're going to go through a bit of video in just a few minutes, but there's kind of 3 key steps to this process. So first of all, we're asking people to externalize and reflect. So really keeping a record of what's actually happening in their lives. And there's a few different ways that we do that, which we'll look at in a second. The next thing is using the Ginsberg tool to actually pinpoint what those triggers and root causes of stress and low mood are. And then the next step is to go on to actually taking control of your life and working on these different areas. And as you'll see, there's a number of different organizations that we're working with that will allow people to do that in a more structured format. We've got another blank. So this is the demo part of the section. So what we usually do here is we actually do a live demo where I sort of go through the technology live in front of you. I'm not going to do that today. We've learned from long experience that these things have a habit of breaking down when you least want them. So we've pre-recorded some video that we're going to go through and stop in a couple of places to explain some things. Just to give you a little bit of context, this account that we're using here is an account based on one of our personas. It's a man in his late 30s who's called Greg. Greg works in the marketing industry in Edinburgh. He's got quite a high-stress job. He has to travel quite a lot. He's married. He has 2 children, so there's a lot of pressure on his time. His mother died recently, so that's obviously changed his relationship with his father. And because of his lifestyle, there's quite a few sort of other factors in that. He's often working late. He finds he's drinking quite a lot. He's not exercising as much as he used to. So what he finds is that he's being worn down. He feels under constant pressure, but he couldn't pinpoint any individual thing that he could go to a doctor to help him with. So we think that someone like Greg is the perfect person to use Ginsberg. So if you could roll the video, please. Yeah, we're running. So this is the first thing that Greg sees when he logs in. You can't really see it very well on the screen, but he's got 3 questions here and 1 little diary entry. And the 3 questions I mentioned, if you could just pause it 1 second, keep going. Sorry, can you start it again? And pause it just here. Sorry, you really can't see the detail on the screen. So when Greg first signed up for Ginsberg, he chose 3 from 18 different well-being questions. So these are asking him how he feels every day, and rather than being like most mood trackers you can get via the App Store, this asks you to choose from 18 questions, whereas most commercially available apps, you essentially have a linear scale of I feel good today versus I feel bad today. Mood is so much more complex than that, and we want to represent that. Okay, if you can continue to roll the video, please. So every day we ask Greg to respond to each of these questions and tell us how he's feeling on a scale of 1 to 5. And the questions have been modelled on WebWebs, and the response scale is based on the Who5 scale, so there's a clinical background to all of this. So that's what he's doing at the moment. And he also fills in a short diary entry, which you can't really see that well here, but in that diary entry he uses little hashtags to indicate things that are important to him. So here he said, work stress, working late, and pub are the 3 things he's chosen to pick out. And we'll look at why that's important in just a minute. So when Greg enters his wellbeing questions, what he's taken to is a graph that shows how his mood is tracked over the last few days. This is the last week. He can also look at it over the last month if he wants to. And he can begin to add information about the different things in his life, the physical dimension. So here he's adding sleep. He actually slept quite well last night, so he's entering that data and indicating how good his quality of sleep was. Because of his lifestyle and working in the marketing industry, Greg goes to a lot of client events, a lot of social events, and he finds he tends to drink quite a lot. So yesterday he had a really stressful day and ended up going to the pub after work and to commiserate with colleagues. Ended up drinking about sort of 16 units of alcohol, 7-8 pints. And this is a recurring theme, which is something you can start to pick up as you go through Greg's history. However, there's a number of other things in terms of physical information. So we allow Greg to track his exercise, his food, how many steps he's done each day, and various other things. And he can use a number of commercially available services, apps, that he can integrate directly with. The next thing Greg's taken to is, this is a week view, which goes through his sort of story for the last week. So this is a much more digestible view of each week that he can start to track the changes over the last few weeks. We'll stop the video here and we'll move on to the next slide. The last thing I just wanted to touch on is that the next thing he'll go on to is essentially starting to draw insights out of this information. And what we've pulled out from this account is that in Greg's case, the things he tends to find is that when he's got meetings with clients that tend to be stressful, this really affects his mood. It tends to dip quite significantly. When he works late, he tends to eat badly, which is something that's fairly obvious, but that he might not fairly think of. He's also noticed that his alcohol consumption is really closely connected to his working patterns. When he works more, he drinks more. And when he works late, he drinks more. But he's also found there's a really strong positive association between when his mood is good and spending time with his family, with his children, with his wife, and with his father. So that suggests there's a real imbalance of work between work and life there. And so they're the kind of things that Greg would choose to work on from that point. So I'm going to talk now about how we work and how Ginsberg iterates and innovates. So we use a system called Agile, which I know that Alice used, and there's a couple of other projects within Scotland. We work in 2-week sprints where we plan, we set goals for that 2 weeks, and we go and we work on them, we build something, and we aim to have something complete and visible at the end of those 2 weeks. This is really important because it allows us to work really quickly. It takes us 2 to 3 weeks, so that's maybe 4 to 6 weeks for something to go from concept right through to being live, available for people to use. The reason why that's so important is because Ginsberg is essentially an exercise in co-design, co-production. We respond very actively to our user feedback to evolve the system. Ginsberg is not a stable platform. Well, it's a stable platform in the sense of it's robust, but it's not a fixed platform just now. So it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. We're in an open beta at the moment, which means that it's open for people to sign up to and to test. We get them to use it, to tell us what they like, what they don't like, and we then use that to change things, to add new things, to take out things they don't like. And we've made some really significant advances in the 3 months, 3 months since we launched to me speaking to you today. And we've got a lot of user feedback. Over the course of those 3 months, we've got over 50 new feature ideas. We've got a team of 8 people. We can't possibly hope to build out every single one of those new features. Not all of those new features are necessarily a good idea, but we've integrated as many as we feel match the goal of the project. So we've probably put in about 12 new features in that time. We've addressed 123 user support tickets. We've got 106 pieces of feedback from people after using the system for a week. And we've got 61 responses from people who've actually stopped using their account. And in some ways, they're the most important thing, most important aspect of all, as they do really give us a sense of what people don't like and what's turning them off. So just to go through the top 5 of feedback we've been received and what we've learned from that, the biggest takeaway has been the fact that Ginsberg's mobile experience is currently lacking. People want Ginsberg available in a smartphone app that they can do everything through. And we knew mobile would be important. We didn't anticipate it would be quite that important. Another strong piece of feedback has been that Ginsberg is too naggy. People get annoyed by notification emails, by notifications. Sometimes they want to be left alone. They want to be able to turn it off. So we've added facilities for them to do that. They want the platform to be more stable. They don't want their Fitbits and their Jawbones to drop out every month and having to reconnect. So that's something we need to work on. We have to recognize that some people may sign up for it and decide that it's not for them, and we need to make it easier for them to unsubscribe or to freeze their account. And we found that one group of our users just want more stuff. They want to track absolutely everything. Their weight, their split between work and life, their blood sugar, their blood pressure, and if you can name it, they want to track it. They want to be able to track 5 sleeps a day, all these sorts of things. So we're working on those. In terms of the specific new features we've added since we launched into our beta, we've got the new This Week view, which we went through just there, which allows people to see everything in a really digestible format, quite like a paper diary, which particularly helps some people who struggle with the graph view. We've also introduced SMS mood tracking, where you can record your mood information every day via free text message. So if you only have intermittent access to the internet, if you don't have a smartphone, you can still actually use Ginsberg to record your mood data. We've added features for people to disable their account, so that freezes the account, it saves their data, and if they want to come back to it at a later date, they can just log in and reactivate it and get on from there. So that's recognizing that not everyone wants to use something like Ginsberg all the time, but it's there for them when they need it. We've made quite a lot of changes to our interface, particularly our homepage, and one of the things that will be coming in the next month or so is an all-new homepage, which actually allows you to do everything from the one screen, whereas at the moment you have to split between two screens. It's all about trying to simplify it and make it easier for people. And then the other thing we've added is new insight pages that are allowing people to explore more detail the relationships between their sleep, their exercise, their alcohol consumption, their nutrition, and their different triggers for mood. So we keep building on that. So finally, I think one of the things we're really going to be working on in these next few months is connecting with other organisations. I realise that quite a lot of people have maybe found it a little bit difficult to engage with Ginsberg in the past. In part, that's part due to the nature of the project and it being such an intense development cycle. But we're at a point now where we've got something that we're really proud of, and we want to work with people to shape the future of it and to make it something that they want as well. So, unfortunately, Jane couldn't be here today. Tim spoke in her place, of course. One of the things we're working on is becoming a referrer for Alice, so that people who identify that they have an issue in Ginsberg can actually tap directly into the Alice database to produce a list of local resources that can help them. We're also looking to work with Healthy Working Lives about promoting Ginsberg as a tool to employers to help improve things like work-life balance and reduce workplace stress, which is, of course, an enormous economic issue. And then finally, we also have the Ginsberg Platform API. So as well as being this smartphone app and this web app that people can use, Ginsberg is also a technology platform that people can potentially build other apps on top of, more specialist things perhaps that are focused at younger users or at people with particular conditions. So that's something that we'll be talking about a lot more in the coming months.
Jodi, what's an API?
Sorry. An API is an application programmer protocol interface. There we go. I should know that off by heart. Essentially, what it allows, it's a common language that app developers can use to allow their apps to talk to each other and bring information from one to the other. So by having that, we allow people to build apps on top of Ginsberg really easily. So coming next, we've got our full mobile experience. We're targeting a new version release it should be around the beginning of March. We're looking at the 2nd of March. That may vary by a day or two depending on the App Store approvals. We're overhauling our homepage. We're improving the robustness of the program, and then we're rolling out this API, which you'll be hearing lots more about over the next quarter. And there on the right-hand side, you've got a preview of the new mobile app, which if anyone's used the old one, I hope you'll agree that this one's a lot more slick and modern. So there you go. And that's us. So we've got a stand outside if anyone would like to come and talk to us. I realise I really skimmed through things here quite quickly. So if anyone would like some more in-depth information, please come and chat. Our email's there, our website is there. So yeah, please speak to us.